By the time she died, Alero Musa had become many things: a legend, a benefactor, a queenpin, a sinner, a saint. But to me, she was just the girl from Block D in Mushin, the one who smelled of fried fish, wore oversized slippers, and dreamed too loudly for a world that rarely listened to girls like us. I am Kemi Adioti, and this is the story I've never told. We grew up on the same muddy street in Block D, Mushin, where water rats raced along drainage gutters, and mothers cursed at dawn because their husbands hadn't come home. It was a place where dreams dried up faster than laundry on rusted lines, but somehow, Alero still walked those broken streets like a queen, even before she knew how to spell the word. Alero was the kind of girl who went barefoot even when she owned shoes. Taller than me. Sharper. 2 years older. But never once did she make me feel small. When we played with scraps of fabric and banana leaves, building palaces out of broken wood and curtains, she always played the queen. Said she was practicing for her future. She was born to a pepper seller and a man whose name changed depending on who was asking or who he owed. Her real father had vanished before she turned 1. The man she called Baba drank his dignity away in sachets of dry gin, drowning whatever dreams might have flickered behind his bloodshot eyes. School was never a priority, not when food was uncertain, not when her mother had 3 other mouths to feed. She left after junior secondary school. Books don't love me back, she once told me with a crooked smile. But I think it broke her heart more than she ever let on. Still, she never let life see her kneel. Even as girls, with muddy knees, mosquito-bitten legs, and dreams larger than the sky, we knew Alero was different. Her laughter cracked like thunder. Her gaze was sharp enough to slice shame in half. She told me once, "Kemi, the street is my university." And she meant it. Afternoons were spent braiding each other's hair with stolen rubber bands, whispering secrets, and pretending our cardboard castles were real kingdoms. Even then, she ruled. But none of us could have guessed the kind of throne she'd end up claiming, one built not of gold, but of shadows. By 17, Alero was moving differently. The barefoot girl from Block D had learned how to walk with purpose. Her trip started small, runs to Cotonou, where she brought back cheap textiles, knockoff perfumes, little things that sparkled just enough to catch attention. But soon, the journey stretched longer, Benin to Togo, Togo to Ghana, Ghana back to Lagos. She never said much about what she was really carrying, especially in those oddly heavy foam chairs. But the signs were there. The money got louder. Her slippers became sandals, then heels. The fish oil smell that once clung to her skin faded, replaced by jasmine, Chanel, and something colder, something untouchable. Her hair was always done. Her eyes, sharper than ever. She was 17 the first time she vanished for days, 5 of them. When she came back, she had a silver wristwatch, new shoes, and a bag full of Cotonou fabric. She smiled like the world had started listening. I asked no questions. But I watched. She told me once, as we sat beneath an abandoned bus in Onipinu sipping Fanta, "I'm not going to die in poverty like the rest of them. If the world won't open its doors, I'll break a window." And she did. She called it import and export, flashing a wink that made my stomach twist. But those chairs she hauled, they weren't for sitting, they were for smuggling. Hidden inside them were things none of us from Block D had ever touched or seen, wrapped in silence, swallowed by survival. Her first taste of heroin trafficking came like everything else in her life, dressed up in charm, stitched with danger. "You can either wait for the world to give you something," she told me once, voice low like a secret, "or you can take it with both hands." Alero chose the latter. By the time she turned 30, Alero had people. Not friends, people. Drivers who didn't blink. Bodyguards with 2 phones and no expressions. Housemaids who never spoke unless spoken to. Cooks who once plated for ambassadors. Tailors who flew in from Paris with swatches the color of old money. She'd moved into a mansion in Suraleh, the kind with a koi pond in front and a prayer room she never used. The bathroom taps were gold. The tiles were Italian. Her bedroom was so large her laughter echoed. And when she laughed, it didn't sound like joy, it sounded like triumph. They called her Aya Warehouse, Madam London, Mama Abidjan. She called herself Boss. And so did everyone else. The rumors followed her like perfume. That she swallowed capsules of heroin on runs to Paris. That she had a godfather in Côte d'Ivoire. That her kitchen floor concealed a tunnel wide enough to fit a motorbike. That NDLEA agents once stormed her house and left with only silence and empty hands. One officer even joked, if Alero wanted to smuggle the Atlantic Ocean, she'd find a way. She never confirmed anything. And I never asked. Some truths, if spoken aloud, change everything. But the whispers only grew louder, that she had trafficked over 100 kilos in less than 5 years. That she paid off customs officers before they even knew they were on her route. That she had bank accounts in names that didn't exist. Still, Alero gave back. She funded Yoruba film sets. Lent her Bentleys for wedding scenes. Once paid 2 million Nigerian nairas for a producer's child's heart surgery, cash, no questions asked. Beneath all that opulence was a quiet cartel built not just on drugs, but on fear, loyalty, and silence. And somehow, through it all, the barefoot girl from Block D had become a name that trembled in the mouths of powerful men. If you lived in Lagos between 1999 and 2009, you knew her name even if you didn't know her. Alero, Mama Abidjan, Aya Warehouse. Fuji musicians didn't just sing about her, they worshipped her in lyrics. K1 the Ultimate, Shahid Osupa, Holma. She was their chorus, their muse. At her worms, her praises echoed louder than those of state governors. Clubs in Ikeja lit up the moment she walked in. Men bowed. Women adjusted their gele and smiled, but never too wide. And when champagne bottles lined up like obedient soldiers, she would laugh, deep, careless, untouchable. Like a woman who had never known a single day of fear. Money flowed from her palms like blessings from the heavens. She supported Yoruba film sets without blinking. Lent directors her Lexus, her generator, her mansion. Let actresses borrow her diamonds for red carpets. Once, she gave a rising actor 2 million Nigerian nairas to bury his mother. Nobody should mourn in poverty, she told me. That was her way, part mercy, part message. She was fire. And fire, you see, doesn't ask permission to burn. But fire also consumes. And fear, silent, creeping, was beginning to catch up. But fire also leaves ash. Her first arrest came in 1999. They said she was caught with 5 kilograms of heroin. The headlines were brutal, Queenpin falls, they screamed. But her mugshot was flawless. White lace. Perfect eyeliner. Chin raised like royalty. I visited her in prison. She smiled, calm as ever, and said, I'm safer here than out there. There are fewer liars in jail than in politics. She made prison look like a sabbatical. She was released in 2001. The whispers slowed, but the fire didn't. In 2003, they got her again, NDLEA agents, this time at the Lagos airport. Heroin. Again. Hidden in body wraps beneath her clothes. I saw her face on NTA News at 10. She didn't flinch. Didn't cry. Queens don't cry in public. She got out. Again. And I stopped asking how. Because some people are never truly locked away. They don't serve sentences. They negotiate with the keymakers. They take vacations behind gates while the world resets itself for their return. The streets called it power. I called it something closer to a curse. The first time she coughed blood, I was in her kitchen. She waved it off, brushing tissue against her lips. Malaria, she said. But her hands were trembling. It wasn't malaria. It wasn't typhoid. It was louder, uglier, unforgiving. Cancer. Some said ovarian. Others whispered pancreatic. No one could say for sure, only that it was eating her, fast and without mercy. She flew to London, then to New York, then Dubai. 150 million Nigerian naira spent chasing hope in private hospitals and sterile white rooms. She threw money at the illness the same way she once threw it at praise singers and producers. But power has its limits. Money can hush witnesses. It can open prisons. But it cannot silence tumors. One night, she called me, her voice thin and breaking. Kemi, I'm tired. All this gold means nothing when your body becomes a coffin. And from that moment, Alero began to slow down. The lace disappeared. The heels were boxed away. The party stopped. The champagne dried up. And the Fuji clappers stopped singing her name. She started attending a quiet church in Suraleo, no announcement, no convoy. She came alone, sat in the back, cried during hymns. She donated anonymously to hospitals, visited orphanages in disguise, gave more than she ever flaunted. I once asked her why. She looked at me, thinner than I'd ever seen her, and said, "Because I want to leave more than scandal behind. I want heaven to know I tried." It was the first time I saw Alero without her crown. And somehow, she looked more royal than ever. In the last 9 months of her life, she repented and became a totally different person as she tried to make amends to all those she felt she had offended. Alero, a woman who rose from nothing into one of the biggest and most feared women in Lagos, was now lying on her bed, looking tired from the pain of cancer. Then one evening, she looked at me and said, "Don't let them remember me only as a drug dealer. Tell them I was more." On July 20th, 2019, Alero Musa died. Not in a shootout. Not in prison. Not beneath flashing lights or roaring applause. She died in a clean, quiet hospital room. No makeup. No silk. No entourage. Just peace. Her breathing slowed like a soft song fading into dawn. The woman who had once survived bullets, betrayals, and borders, was gone. Her funeral was private. Too private for someone who had once lit Lagos on fire. But I was there. And in that silence, I wept, not just for her, but for every girl who thought the world would only hear her if she screamed loud enough to burn it down. Alero wasn't just a daughter. She was a friend, a smuggler, a saint. She was a contradiction. A rose made of steel. A woman who bent rules until they snapped in her hand. Both prayer and profanity. Sin and salvation. She was the girl who refused to be forgotten. She was my friend. And now, in telling her story, I have kept my promise. Don't let them remember me only as a drug dealer. Tell them I was more. Rest in fire, Alero.